come one, come all. Nothing but love, nothing but respect. You know what we do, what we don't, what we is, what we isn't, and what we is here today. Talking One Piece chapter 1049. I've got with me Eggs for Brekkie, aka Daniel. Say hello, my guy.
Hello, my guy.
Perfect, and it's good to see that the audio is working, so that's got me with a big smile on my face, because last night I had nothing but technical difficulties. Even today, it's been a logistical nightmare with stream stuff. But yeah, you gotta love it. Okay, so I mean, it's chapter 1049. We're up in big numbers, but there's not really a clean way to start this stream off outside of just, I might as well ask you, like, how did you like the chapter?
I mean, I thought it was alright. Like, it was basically just what you expected. There wasn't really a twist. It was just a very drawn out way of saying, yeah, and Luffy's punch one, and he won the fight.
So
Um, so it wasn't anything like spectacular, but like, I mean, it was the finally we got the conclusion to the fight. So I'm pretty happy about it. Like, I'm happy that we finally have the. It's finally over. I
I
think it was
have to
time.
ask then, do you think the fight is definitively over?
Yeah,
You do?
yeah, big time.
Because um, I don't have a definitive answer on for or against, right?
Mhm.
But I ran a poll from last night on Twitter. Doesn't have a whole lot of votes, but at the moment, it had three options, right?
Mhm.
Kaido gets up again is overwhelmingly winning as the votes on the poll.
Mhm.
So the three options I put up were fights over, Kaido gets up again, or CP0 and co-invade, right?
Uh-huh.
50% at the moment are all on board for the idea that Kaido is still going to be getting back up again. Which,
Really?
yeah, which I'm really split in, because all of all parts of this say to me that this should be the end.
Yeah.
But, and I'll like, without trying to sound like a negative person, it feels like a fumble, right? If this is the end, I feel like there was too many mistakes, not enough fleshed out things in certain areas, and it wasn't as climactic as it should have been, right?
Right.
But on the flip side of it is, it's been really fun and really cool up until now, and we've been fighting Kaido for 6 volumes.
Yeah.
So part of me is like he should get back up. To me, I'm like
Well,
he
okay.
should, but I also feel like we've been doing this so long. If it happens one more time, it's like, really?
I think if he gets back up, I would be absolutely amazed. I would actually put like a 99% certainty that he's down. Like, okay, I'll preface, it gets back up and keeps fighting Luffy.
Yes.
Might like get back up and like walk off or something, or get back
Ooh,
up and be like, "You're Joy Boy" or something. But like the fact, like the idea that the fight is not over, I am like 99% sure that's not true. 99% sure this fight is over and Luffy's won it.
so it's hard, right? Because thematically speaking, right?
Mhm.
He goes down the exact same way that Doflamingo does, right? Luffy powers up with a new form. Dofi and Kaido put up a defensive and offensive attack, clash facing up in the air as Luffy's coming down, and Luffy punches them through their village, essentially,
Yeah.
right? Which is like, that parallel is amazing, and I love that, and it was really well done. But to me, it's like there's been so many hints and setups of things that I'm sort of sitting back and I'm like, shit, really? For example, right? You probably haven't been watching many other YouTube videos or anything like that about One Piece at the moment, have you?
No.
All right. So there's a common thing going on around the moment that a lot of people have analyzed, where Kaido's attacks have been based after Buddhist gods, right?
Yeah.
And he's done 4 attacks named after 4 gods, but there are 5 gods in that naming scheme.
Right.
So the fact that we got this clash here, and Kaido still hasn't used potentially one last attack that fits that naming scheme. The fact that we never saw if Kaido's awakened, and we never got a confirmation on if this is his awakening, or especially when, like, as the world's strongest creature, you'd think he'd be awakened if anyone was going to be awakened. Like, no one on his crew was awakened. You at least felt like maybe it would be him. You know what I mean?
Alright.
The fact that we had been teased about the victory cry of Kaido when he wins, but never had anything come of that. The fact that this is the only fight in the arc that hasn't had the end card saying who the winner of the fight is. Right? The fact that the citizens of Wano, this whole conflict happened without the citizens of Wano ever being present. So this would be the only fight in the story where the victims of the villain don't get the luxury of seeing the villain planted out on the ground, knocked out. You know what I mean? There's just so many little things that Oda normally does in his writing. I mean, even the flashback, it's set up to, like, it and I'm really torn on the fence here, because part of me is like, knowing Oda for so long, I kind of feel like this has just been a fumble and that this is over, right? Because, like, at this point in time, we've had almost 100 chapters in Act 3, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, at this point in time, it's almost like I couldn't see an Act 4 and 5 being a thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's just gone for so long now that it's like, if there is going to be another 2 acts, it's kind of like a really? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same point in time, it's like,
I don't think all of those things that you said. I think it's kind of like the like big One Piece theory kind of thing. I think a lot of it is just like reading too much into things.
I mean, maybe.
I don't necessarily think a lot of that is like significant at all. Like the Kaido's like victory roar, I don't even think that's really much of a thing. I think that's like, people have looked into it a lot, and now it's become a part of a lot of people's theories, but I don't think it was that significant of a moment when it was actually like mentioned. Like, it wasn't very memorable.
See,
it's just that it's kind of like become memorable because it's been like a common talking point in the community.
but part of the problem is for me as well. It's like, it's not just that it's there. It's that it's there, but there's a lot of other things too, right? For example, Kaido going down here is essentially how he was introduced in the series, falling from a sky island, essentially, right? But it's like, how I sort of, like, if he's not out here, how I kind of see it is how Thriller Bark ended, where we beat Oars and Moria, and then Moria gets up, and it's only like 1 or 2 more hits that take him out. You know what I mean? Like, I say if Kaido's getting back up, he's got, like, this attack did so much damage that it messed him. You know what I mean? But it's like, at the same point in time, I'm sort of here. I'm like, Oda said he wasn't going to end it with just one big, strong punch. There's so much more setup for it. There's so many caveats about little things that Kaido could have or should have done that he didn't. Even his flashback here seemed tamed, in the sense that it was like, he specifically tried to gloss over the flashback as much as possible, because we're going to get it in more depth later. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like... And this is what I mean. Like, it's like, if this is it, it feels like a fumble on how well the character was treated, because Kaido was only a little bit of detail away from probably being most people's choice for the best villain in One Piece, right?
Well, then my question is, what do you think Kaido needed? What did he miss?
I think clear character motivation, right? Which his backstory, that those few little panels gave a little bit more of an insight, but we've got no idea on him or his dynamic in that regard. You know what I mean? We can sort of see it, but like we have no idea necessarily why he's suicidal, right? We have no idea how or why he knows about Joy Boy, why he specifically set up in Wano as an opposition to try and find Joy Boy, and the fact that Kaido and King's, like, if this is the end here, they both flash back to their conversation with each other about Joy Boy as they've been beaten, right?
Right.
The fact that even this, like, in this flashback here, Kaido's like, when Joy Boy beats me, that's the guy you're looking for, King.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot, and the problem is it can all be tied to the One Piece, arguably. So I can understand if this is it, that sort of stuff will be in more relation to, like, when we deal with all the poneglyphs, which, I mean, if this is it, we're about to just get the biggest info dump in the series. So it's like, this should be a point of hype. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there'll be a few chapters of like celebrations and crap before we get down to brass tacks.
See, even that though, it's like, you know how I've even talked about the dawn. It's not dawn yet. It was only just stated to be midnight, like, not all that long ago in time.
Yeah.
So it's like all the, 20 shadows bringing the dawn and that sort of stuff. Like, unless it's the citizens of Wano, all, like, they've put their lanterns up in the sky, they didn't notice the massive big explosions of Big Mom and Kaido being defeated and Onigashima falling in. Just so happened that no one noticed. They all just go to bed and wake up, and then the dawn comes with all the survivors from the Allied team, like, coming into the village to be like, we beat them, they're gone. Right?
Yeah.
That feels like sort of cheap, as opposed to, like, like the Gandalf riding over the hill at Helm's Deep with the first light sort of stuff. It's like, it doesn't have to be that way, but it's like, it feels like a fumble. And the fact that...
were you expecting someone to come in and save Luffy? Were you not expecting Luffy to beat...
No, it's not that.
Kaido?
It's not that. Like, I expect Luffy to beat Kaido. It's just, I didn't expect it to be, one, a big strong punch. I didn't expect it, two, to happen without us knowing more about...
What did you expect it to be, if not a big strong punch?
If anything, the first time defeating a Yonko shouldn't be, I just hit him really hard and he knocked out, right? Like, if anything, it should have been more, to me, right? And it was set up more to be like this. Like, it should have been more how Luffy versus F went at the end of Film Z, in a way, you know what I mean? Whereas, like, Kaido's been fighting everyone, holding up an island. We kept getting told he was fatigued instead of shown it. You know what I mean? Part of me was like, if it's a matter of, like, taking out our first big bad of the series, and it is a group effort, even if Luffy gets the main credit for it at the end, it shouldn't just be he looks at full health or close to full health, even though we're being told he's not, and then he just gets one punched. You know what I mean? It feels cheap. To me, at least. Right? Which, again, if it is it, it's sort of like, okay, cool. Because, I mean, and we might as well break it down a bit, but it's like, the punch was impressive, but when we've been told about people splitting continents, or, like, this attack sort of did the same thing that Law's attack did, except Law's attack, like, bypasses your defense and destroys your organs from the inside out as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This really didn't feel like a punch worthy of one hit knocking out a Yonko like an absolute champ, in a way. And maybe I don't know what I expected. I just didn't expect this. And especially since, like, remember when Kaido was introduced, how he fell from Sky Island, there was that big crater, and, like, we got that whole rundown of, like, the suicide, and then Kaido's hand reaches out and he climbs out in front of Kid and that.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it's set up to be like that here, except for the way that the narrator ends this not the narrator, but, like, the way that the editors end the chapter here, where they specifically say 20 years in the making. So this really does feel like it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it is an impressive punch. Like, Luffy breaks Kaido's horn and punches him so fast, like an island-sized creature shaves through the earth.
Yeah, he literally made him shave.
Like he and again, like, and it's like, it's not just that he made him shave. He made an island-sized creature shave through solid bedrock. It's impressive, but it's also sort of like it almost lacks a level of hit, if that makes sense. It's like it feels more like a fast punch than a heavy hit in a weird way. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know. I'm torn as to whether or not this is satisfying. Not just because not just because of how much Kaido's been built up, but also because like it felt like we were still missing key components from Kaido's character. And maybe that's the point. Maybe if Luffy takes on Big Mom later on, or this, that, and the other, maybe
I just don't know if there was really anything to his character. He was just like a strong warrior dude. I mean, we got a bit of a flashback for him, right? He was a strong warrior dude. He got kicked out of, like, he's just a dude with like a general background. I'm kind of glad that they didn't like cut away from the current battle to spend heaps of time like
yeah.
fleshing out his character and talking about him, because that would make me a little bit irked.
No, I do agree with that. Where it sort of it didn't hurt the flow as much as like cutting away for 3-4 weeks to find out who Kaido is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when you would have just known that he would have been fine. But the fact
Exactly, and the thing is like, so if we're gonna cut away from Kaido, then either he's gonna be some like crazy important like knows the Void Sentry like level dude, or it's just gonna be like another semi-sad backstory where he was, which is what it was.
but
It's like I wouldn't want like 4 or 5 chapters of like his backstory when it's nothing that like important and significant. I would just feel like the fight in this arc has already gone on for a really long time, and I feel like it would just slow it down even more. Like
I
it's kind of getting to the point for me where it needs to just be like a big flashy finale, and that's that.
I definitely get you with that, right? But it's like there was so little to it. He essentially has an identical backstory to Douglas Bullet. You know what I mean? And Douglas Bullet had like a criminally simple backstory. If that makes sense. So it's like, it's hard, especially since this clash has been going on for 2-3 weeks now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it, right? Especially when it's like the alternative of if this isn't the end, right? It's like this clash didn't split the heavens. This clash, like, it was impressive. It was really impressive, but it's like it almost failed to reach a legendary status, right? And if this isn't the end, if Kaido gets his ass back up again, it's really going to be like, oh, really? Like, I'm genuinely torn where I'm like, oh, he went out that easy, and I'm like, ugh, really? He's gonna get up again?
Yeah, that's how I'd feel if he gets back up again as well. It's just
Like
it's getting kind of ridiculous at this point.
It's impressive, but I just feel like it's hard to look at because the way.
I mean, it was Luffy's biggest punch. He literally said like, "This is all I've got." Like he's been really really tired for ages, and he was like, "This is my big last shot." He made a Rio Conqueror's armament fist the size of a friggin' island. Obviously, that's like all the haki he has left in his existence. And then he does this massive clash. Kaido goes into this magma form we've never seen before, and then clashes against it. Like, what else is he going to show? Like, oh, I can change colors. I can be cold as well, and now I can be
See,
lightningy.
the thing
It's
is,
like, cool, but why haven't you done that already?
the thing
I feel
is, like, I mean, essentially, this was just a Susanoo, right? And we see even in this chapter, it's like it kind of confirmed that Kaido is inside the big dragon.
yeah, I mean, like the thing is, like this would have been like really scary or like impossible to beat if it happened at the very beginning on the rooftop.
Yes.
But like as soon as you have Rio and you have it like strong, then you're fine. Because seemingly he's only so far done this in dragon form, and I think this is the end of the fight. So I think you can have your theories that he can do it in his hybrid form. Why wouldn't he? Whatever. But so far, what we've seen is he does it only in his dragon form. and it's not like he can like dodge you and hit you with a club. It's like he charges at you with his face, or that's it.
Do
Or he
you
tries to whack you with his tail.
feel
Yeah.
like this is satisfying, the fact that Kaido went out in his dragon form?
I'm okay with it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think it has to be like from the perspective of the people up above looking, like the dragon god who rules over the land kind of thing is the thing that gets beaten,
But that's the problem where
not the
none of the
warrior
citizens
Kaido.
have seen this.
Yes, but we don't know that. Maybe next thing they will see him like powering to the ground or something. By the way, it was really confusing. I'm pretty sure it was like so it was you saw Kaido getting like shaved downwards from pure
Yep.
force. And then it like cut to Momo passing out on the ground.
Yes.
Is that Momo?
Oh, so yeah. No. So yeah. So what it is Luffy punches him in the jaw.
Uh-huh.
His body shaves so fast it goes in the ground. You see the smoke from it, and it's nowhere near where they're looking at the lanterns. It's like in the opposite direction, but it's like 3-4 times the size of the flower capital. The smoke blast from this. Kaido, the perspective is Kaido's body is the only thing making a hole. So like we're almost looking as if we're looking through the ground, through the earth. Right? Like the camera angle is we're in the dirt in a way, but we can kind of see through it in a transparent nature. So you see like the hole that Kaido's leaving is just a coil.
Yeah.
He's just getting shaved down, spewing blood as that's happening. Momo's moved Onigashima out the way, and then Momo face plants because he's out of energy, because making the flame clouds took a lot of energy. And then we actually finally get to see how big Onigashima is compared to the flower capital, which it's freaking huge.
Yeah.
And it like even if Onigashima is in the foreground there, it's still huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's hard because it's like even Luffy at the end here. It's like
I mean, yeah, Luffy instantly passed out, but that's the thing. So that's the other thing is that if Kaido gets back up, it's like what? So if you lost again, like I don't know what the expectation is there.
I feel like the expectation is the satisfying result of the civilians being involved, like they normally are, and it's a happy moment that we've defeated the main villain, as opposed to one that just sort of feels forced.
But what I mean is like if Kaido gets back up and Luffy's passed out, are we expecting Luffy then also gets back up? Like
I mean, he's
I
done it
mean,
multiple
that would
times in
literally
multiple arcs.
yeah, but that's the thing. It would like literally draw this out like so much.
Mm-hmm.
If I saw that happen, I would just be like, what the fuck? Like, like Sanji runs by and picks up Luffy and then runs away from Kaido, and then all of the retainers come back all beaten and bloodied, and they hold off Kaido one last time and all get killed, and then all the civilians run at Kaido, and he's like, oh, I can't kill you all because you're my workforce. I won't have any slaves.
Or
And then,
we
I
have
mean, it's
a severely weakened Kaido that's right on his last limbs. Get up, come out of the hole. We have a small lineup of the Straw Hats that are okay, and maybe Kid and Law go to stand against him for a moment, right? Maybe he even goes to do an attack or something, and it's like, even if it's as simple as, if I wasn't awakened, I would be out right now, and that it's not that he's at full strength, and that he can do what he normally does, but he's like, I need to recover. I need to beat these people to recover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like a matter of like, oh, he's on his last legs. If we just get one good hit in on him now, he's out. But if we allow him to stay like up a bit longer, he'll recover again. And then maybe just get like a final last hit from Luffy. Because that's sort of what happened in the fight against Moria in Thriller Bark. You know what I mean? Where it was like, Luffy did an insane big F-off attack that knocked out Moria, and he passed out himself, and he's like, that was all I had. I'm at the edge of my limit. And then Moria got up, started to recover. The Straw Hats all stood there, and they're like, crap, we've got to take him out. And then Luffy gets up one more time, gets 2 hits in, and Moria's out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I understand that would be like, ugh, really, we're doing that? but that would give us just the option for the civilians of Wano to be able to see it with their eyes, because seeing is believing, right? And Kaido's even said this multiple times this arc. It's like, I should have brought your head back with me to show everyone that it's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, Kaido's knocked out. Did the civilians really believe it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you just believe like, oh, really? We beat a god. Oh, yeah, sweet. You know what I mean? Like, I know they're wishing for it, but it's like, they've gone through shit from absolute hell for 20 years. I think they're going to be very skeptical. You know what I mean?
Fair.
And it's like, if it is the way it is and it's just ended, it's kind of like, okay. I mean, yeah, okay. But it doesn't feel complete. And maybe that's the point, because you know how Kaido's whole thing was like death completes a person?
I think the big thing is that, like, this has just been like a punch, and then he got sent into the ground, and then Luffy passed out, and then the chapter kind of cut off from there.
Yes.
I think if you give it another couple of chapters, it'll feel more complete, because they will like cover, okay, yeah, he actually is fully down. Here's all the Straw Hats reacting to it. Here's all the people celebrate. You know what I mean? Like, and it'll kind of come to like a I don't know. It might feel a bit more.
Because I've got this here as well, right? Where it's like, this didn't even, like, every other end of a fight, right? This arc has gotten a Oda box from the editor stating fight between blank and blank, winner of blank.
Yeah.
The fact that we don't get it here, where it doesn't matter if it was like the last page of every other conflict, we've gotten it with the last hit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And maybe I mean, like, Oda's a master troll, right? That might be exactly what he's wanting to do, where it's like, we're going on break for a week. Like, imagine the conversation for the next fortnight, like, is he back up? Is he not back up? Is the arc over? Is it not over? You know what I mean? Because, like, in the absolute off chance that it isn't over, right? Imagine if, like, next chapter, we think it's done. We start to celebrate, right? And I tweeted this as a hypothetical, even though I personally believe there's no possibility of it coming true, right? But could you imagine that happens? We start to celebrate. The civilians like, oh, we beat him, right? And then we see Act 3 end. Get a small glimpse, like a really minuscule glimpse of what's happening around the world, right?
Yeah.
With it ending with that CP0 guy that's just fled, arriving with the fleet just under Onigashima, giving the report that Kaido and Big Mom are down, and I mean, their whole goal here is to invade, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if they start to invade, we flip from a assassination or a raid to defending a siege, right? So, like, Act 4 opens, we start defending a siege, and then a weakened Big Mom and a weakened Kaido get up. And yes, that would feel absolutely dragged out, right? But it's like, at this point in time...
Okay, so I think, like, if it was a whole different force, like the world government coming in, and I could see it dragging on. But if we're just continuing to fight Kaido, it's just too much.
What I'm saying is, from our perspective, because again, it would have to be a lot shorter, right? But say Oda wants to have Wano in this scenario. Oda wants Wano completely finished by chapter 1100.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got 50 chapters left of it. Right. That means 4 volumes of a final fight with 1 volume of a celebration and let's piss off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, we've got the world government ships here to be dealt with, right? We've got Zunisha on his way to have some form of significance, right? We've got the Big Mum pirates that never officially got dealt with. They just got delayed. Right? We've got Kaido and Big Mum both knocked out, and I'm doing air quotes there because it's like Kaido's very questionable, and even Big Mum said, "Do you really think this will knock me out?" as the explosions are going off in her defeat chapter, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it literally could just turn into a battle of the high ground where it's like, they've all been knocked off Onigashima, it's like off Wano itself, and now the battle's sort of like, the world government's trying to invade, they think Kaido and Big Mom have been defeated, they initiate, and then once it gets to a point where they can't pull out, Kaido and Big Mom get up, so the forces of having to deal with the world government are significantly less than it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Gives Luffy and the Straw Hats just a moment to recover a bit, to be more useful while that's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Resulting in either a way for us to open the borders of Wano or whatever, because it's like, at this point in time, the world government would only stop if they either take over Wano or if they arrest Big Mom and Kaido. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say.
So, how are we going to get rid of them? Unless Zoe just one-shots them, in which case, what was the point of having them come in the first place other than just to say, like, oh, well, the world government would try to do it because it makes sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
And I could see it being that, but it feels cheap. And unless something gets done with them, it's no different to how I felt about the Big Mum Pirates, if that makes sense. Where it's like, what's the point of telling us and showing us that they're coming and that they're here to not have them involved? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, to me, it makes a lot of interesting sense. You know what I mean? And then that gives us, like, we still need to find the road poneglyph here. We've still got no idea where the road poneglyph is, and it hasn't been in any location we've been to. The poneglyph at the Flower Capital and the poneglyph on Onigashima, neither of them were the road poneglyph, but we've been told there's one here. So,
yeah,
we're like, narratively, we still have to find that. We have to wrap up with what's happening with the Beast Pirates. So, say all the fodder Beast Pirates are forgiven because of Otama, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the Wano citizens then arrest the Topi Ropo and commanders? Or do we have the Marines or world government arrest them? Or do they just eventually get up and piss off?
Right.
Like in a weird way, this is unlike, like, every other arc in the story. It's either been, we beat them, they run away, or we beat them, they get arrested. But this is the one time in the story where we're in a location where that's not really possible without it causing more issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and I mean, like, it's not a hard thing for us to arrest these people. This is the land of Wano where the sea stone's abundant. You know what I mean? Like, with the Beast Pirates knocked out, it's like, there's no reason the civilians that have been tortured for years wouldn't execute them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But then, like, the flip side of it is, like, if they get up, it's kind of like, well, we've already beaten you. There's no fun in continuing your story. You're better off to run away and be like, oh my god, our crew's been beaten. Let's get out of here. In which case, you just run into the Marines down, or the world government downstairs, which then it just raises the narrative of, it makes a lot of sense to arrest them.
Okay.
And it's like, it's sort of like we're between a rock and a hard place. And maybe Oda's written himself into a corner a bit with this, but it's like, you didn't need to include the Big Mum Pirates, and you didn't need to include the world government, but you have. And the fact that you have says you should use them in some capacity, other than just a, Chekhov's gun that never gets used.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, as much as it pains me, it's like, it's kind of bad writing. It's good world building to make sure that those pieces are moving on the chessboard, but it's bad writing that they didn't come into play at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like, it could have just as simply have been, well, the world government wants to take over Wano, but we we've got to deal with what's happening with the revolutionaries or the warlords, no different to the Marines. So that never actually made a part, never made a play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's only for this CP0 dude that runs away in this chapter to escape, right? That could have been solved with as simple as the CP0 members had a ship stashed nearby that they could just run to whenever they want and leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It didn't need to be a fleet to show up to not be used. So it's like this guy, like no matter how you spin it, he can be the guy that reports the information that gives anyone here a bounty increase, right?
That's true.
But it's like there's so much surrounding the place that it's not as simple as, well, we beat Kaido, all's good and well, because it's like, what was the point of setting up all these other things if they're not going to do anything to each other or to the plot? It hurts it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, what do you think will happen with those moving parts?
It's really hard to tell.
Because before you answer that, because it's like, you know how I was complaining about the flashback a little.
Yep.
That's fine if Big Mum is relevant in Elbaf and Oda's saving the flashback with the rocks to be told through her narrative, since it was brought up with her narrative first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that flashback might be really integral to One Piece, since they know who Joy Boy is and all that. So it might be a matter of, we need to read the poneglyphs first, so we've got that awe of surprise before we get the rocks flashback, where it details like who they were, what they did, why they did what they did, and what they knew.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, like, it's not spoilt for us before we read the poneglyphs. You know what I mean? That can make sense to me, right? Like,
yeah,
I can see the setup for that. So it's like, if that's the choice, fine, go for it. But if it's not, and they don't have the ability to read the poneglyphs in that, it's like, I understand not cutting away from the final fight, but it's like, you've set up and teased some really cool and interesting events just to never pay off at all.
Yeah. True.
Especially when, like, so much hype and intrigue was built around it and about the character. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's cool if Kaido's just a brute, but it's kind of like, if Kaido's just a brute, why was there so much set up to seem like he was more complicated than he is? In subtle detail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, sorry. I cut your answer off there, but it's like, it's perplexing me, to say the least.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's just a tough call to make. It could just go like literally any way, any at all way. So,
and like,
I think like I still don't think Kaido's coming
back,
getting up. I think it's possible that maybe we'll have like a world government thingy, but I don't even know if that's gonna happen, to be honest. Like, it just feels like we've been on Wano for too long.
And I agree with that. The only, like, to me, it's like,
we might get some kind of tease where it's like, we see an admiral get the report, like Green Ball or Fuji or something, and then they're like, all right, I'll go hunt them down. It doesn't actually happen at Wano. It happens like on the way to Elbaf or something.
I could see a flip of it, and like, to me, it makes not a lot of sense. But it's like, okay, if you got all those fleets showing up, Luffy's won, we've beaten 2 Yonko. It's like Shanks shows up, ends the war down beneath, to come up and like say, hey, Luffy, you know, you're finally a great pirate, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, that feels out of place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
And it's hard because it's like, even if I didn't think about like the Oda's comments of like the 5-year plan for One Piece, like, say with COVID and all that whole thought process is, it's not gonna, like, it's not gonna follow that properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I feel like we need to get out of here soon, because if we don't, the only other course of action is to make the events come to us, regardless of fatigue of set piece. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, it's hard because it's not a lot that I need for Kaido here. It's just like because like Big Mom's more understandable because it's like Big Mom got dealt with by unfair circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like Kaido being dealt with unfair circumstances in a sense is sort of like I understand that you may have like bit off more than you chew having two Yonko fight. But like you could deal with one with trickery and one with an like definitive win. But it's like it just feels like this wasn't as definitive of a win as it should have been. You know what I mean? As like there was no title card to say Luffy won, or even a like. I mean, hell, at this point in time, I would settle for a title card that says the raid succeeded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It like, and it's off the back. It's like Orochi's demise was a little underwhelming, but it's like okay, it makes sense thematically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like Denjiro already killed him once. Why have to highlight it again, right? But then it's like okay, I can settle for that. You know, Orochi like Denjiro and Hiyori suffered the most from Orochi, so it was best that they got to deal with it. I can get that. But with Kaido, it's like we're always told like Kaido was the problem. Kaido was the one backing everyone and everything. You know what I mean? It's like punching Kaido here, even though you just yeet him through the planet core. It kind of is like Luffy passes out, Momo passes out. We don't get a moment of like was that it? A momentary like yes, you know what I mean? It's left really ambiguous to the point where it's like it feels like this could have been like a 90% HP cut for Kaido, right? He gets back up, he's winded, he's gassed out of it. The civvies make eye contact after that big explosion and they're like, wait, is that Kaido? Is that Onigashima? What's going on? To see all the samurai walking out of Onigashima, right? To see Momo in dragon form, and they're like, oh, is that Kaido? Only for Momo to transform back into Odin. You know what I mean? And then the civilians be like, wait. What the is Odin doing here? Because we, like, in a weird way, it also felt like there should have been some form of payoff between Kaido and Momo where Kaido sees Odin one last time. If that makes sense.
Right.
So it's like, the civilians need to see Kaido flawed out so that they've got the peace of mind to like, he's been beaten, it's possible to beat him, and we've got the backing of someone that can beat him, right?
Yeah.
We need maybe that like from Kaido's perspective, imagine like how many times did he get the like they've got Odin's Rio, Odin's Rio, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like imagine the last thing Kaido sees before it's lights out for him is Odin's spitting image, and it's like you know how Orochi always talked about like I'm scared of the ghosts coming back. It really would be like thematically like Kaido always laughed it off and was like, ugh, you're crazy. What does it matter? For it to be the twist that he's the one that gets spooked by the ghosts in the end.
Well, wasn't there a thing in this chapter where they were mentioning how Odin was saying that he was opening the gates for the new Joy Boy?
Yes.
So it does seem like in the same chapter that Luffy does that final punch to Kaido, there is some relation between Kaido and Odin and Joy Boy. And so like Odin is at least kind of like tied into this picture.
Yes.
I think the biggest focus with Kaido going down is going to be the whole Luffy being Joy Boy kind of thing.
Yep.
And then the other thing, by the way, is that like I mean, it is also possible that because the thing with Odin saying, "I'm going to open it for Joy Boy," maybe there was actually a Joy Boy then. Maybe, you know, like what the hell? What the hell was he opening it for? Who was he opening it for?
Yeah, see, there's something in Wano that Joy Boy needs.
Yeah,
Big Mum hinted at it when she got defeated. Like, there's a piece of the One Piece here. What is it?
yeah,
Right? And like, you know how I've talked a few times about how like we haven't the only set piece we haven't seen in all of Wano is Mount Fuji.
yeah.
It's I'm kind of here, and I'm kind of like it'd be a great place to hide a poneglyph or something because it's so hard to get to, and it really mirrors Sky Island, where above Giant Jack, up on a separate cloud layer, was the Golden Belfry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the point where Wano and Shandora have even been like so closely connected. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but in Sky Island, they specifically say we are those that weave the true history, told by the sound of the bell of the Golden Belfry. So the Kozuki had the golden bell of Sky Island, right?
Right.
Or it was connected. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like, you know in Lord of the Rings where the towers go up, like the fire goes up to signal Gondor to go help.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if at the top of Mount Fuji is another golden belfry, and it's a way that their kingdoms signified connection with each other. You know what I mean?
Right. So like when you ring it, everyone hears it.
Yeah. So it's like, imagine if all the islands connected to the ancient kingdom somewhere have like a bell hidden, and most of the countries have just had it lost to time, right? But they've just got like it's like a signal to all your neighboring countries of like friendship or assistance and stuff like that.
Right, and it's like once you ring the bell, all the other bells ring because they're like magically connected or something.
Or like it's like, it rings and you hit like you remember that bell in Skypiea, how haunting it is. Like it's a very distinct sound. It's like I feel like something like that connects because there's some piece of history here that connects with Sky Island that we haven't gotten yet, which will probably be connected to when we read the poneglyphs, right? So it's like we're gonna be in Wano for a little bit longer, but it still could be wrapped up really quick. Like I'm thinking less than a volume, right?
Yeah.
But it's like,
How about this then? How about Big Mum gets knocked down into that hole, and the explosions go off in that hole, opening the hole up really big. She gets up, hit it and battered and whatever. And then that hole and the explosions has like unveiled the secret you were talking about. Joy Boy apparently needs. Mum finds it. Then maybe for whatever reason, it leads her to want to go to
Elbaf.
Elbaf. And then after this arc, one of the people in Wano, set like maybe like Hyogoro or something, because he's an old man, say like, yeah, I've seen that before. It leads to Elbaf. There's something hidden in Elbaf. And then Luffy goes to Elbaf, and Big Mom has already gone to Elbaf, and then they meet there and basically fight over whatever it is. That would be a reason for Luffy to actually go to Elbaf and because the thing is like right now you're saying like is obvious like there's lots of
Loose ends.
there's lots of things to read. There's lots of poneglyphs that we need to read at the end of this arc. But the thing is like, okay, cool. What we read all these poneglyphs, and does it give us the passages to Raftel? Does it give like because the thing is that like it's probably going to be something that sends us to Elbaf, I'd assume. Because otherwise, it tells us nothing of that much significance, and then Luffy just happens to travel to Elbaf next anyway.
Okay, hear me out on this then,
I mean?
as a potential story extending but interesting cliffhanger, right? We win here. We start to celebrate. They start to invade. We start to read the poneglyphs, right? I don't know if Oda bothers doing like an Act 4 or 5 stuff. Like, just ignore that for a second, right? Once we read the poneglyphs, right? we get another final, like a very small final confrontation linking with Kaido and Big Mom. Where now that we've got this knowledge from the poneglyphs, which we couldn't have until after we cleared them out of Wano, right? We get conflict with them where we get the rocks flashback that gives a little bit more detail in it, which leads us to understanding why we need to go to Elbaf with some dramatic irony. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, like, Big Mom's obsessed with Elbaf for some reason. Right? The world government's obsessed with trying to make people into giants and stuff like that. There's a lot of loose hanging plot threads with Elbaf. I mean, you probably need a giant to actually transport the poneglyphs around the world anyway. You know what I mean? And the fact that, like, you got the Jaguar D Saul family bloodline that are giants that are Ds that would be connected to it. So it's like, they could have been the family that transported the poneglyphs around. You know what I mean? But it's like, it would be interesting if this is the fighting for the most part done, right? And then we get...
Until the final war.
Well, so hear me out right here, right? So imagine...
You just mean in this arc?
Yeah. No, yes and no. So this is where it's going to be weird, right? Say for the end of Act 3, this is the fighting done. Right? Act 4 opens up. We start to read the poneglyphs as if it's a celebration of the arc. Right? It leads to a smaller conflict with Kaido and Big Mom as we're leaving the island, where they're in a much more weakened state. Right? Maybe even before then, we actually have King wake up. Right? Having realized that Kaido's been cleared off from the island, he actually confronts the Straw Hats to talk to Luffy.
Right.
So we get a little bit of insight there because, I mean, this chapter, and I'll read it out here. We have Kaido, like, we had King specifically, he was waiting for Joy Boy, something to do with his race. Right?
Yeah.
And then in this chapter, Kaido's like, Yamato mentioned Joy Boy, not sure how that brat learned the name. Apparently Odin wanted to open Wano and welcome Joy Boy. If Joy Boy is the same man that you're waiting for, King, then I know who he is. So King's narrative, King's continue of narrative is linked to Joy Boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it almost makes sense. If any one of the Beast Pirates is going to get up and do anything else this arc, it should be King. Because 1, he's a first division commander. 2, he's durable as shit. And 3, narratively, there's something else for him. Right?
Yeah.
You could have Kaido and Big Mom cleared out from the arc. King get back up, start that communication. Maybe Kaido and Big Mom wake up, start waging war down below against the Marines and that. Because there's another interesting narrative plot point that never got dealt with, and that is we haven't seen the Pirate Alliance betrayal. You know what I mean? Like, it was prescribed to us as a daily medicine. Like, Pirate Alliances end in betrayal, right? They always end in betrayal. They always end in betrayal. And, like, there was so many things set up to be like, oh, our alliance is going to end in betrayal, and it didn't. Right?
Yeah.
So imagine if Kaido gets up, having gotten the shit knocked out of him. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe he comes to the realization that Luffy's Joy Boy after he comes to. Maybe they deal with them downstairs. You know what I mean? Clear them out. Him and Big Mom have an altercation, resulting in Big Mom fleeing because her and Kaido's alliance fell through. Kaido's whole crew essentially got their shit rocked, and it's too hard for Big Mom to get back up to the top of Wano. Right? So maybe she leaves. Maybe even she leaves, and the closest island that she's got a log post to is Elbaf, and she goes there to try and recover. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although then it would just kind of feel like Luffy's hunting down a sick dog.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's to say Big Mom might have the redemption, mightn't she?
But that's the thing, is that kind of like what I'm saying is like, regardless of how it happens, think there kind of has to be like something that gets us to go, because either something gets us to specifically go to Elbaf, or it's just like, hey, let's just go to the next island because we've learnt nothing and we have no further goal, and we're just going to aimlessly sail now, trying to look for this last road poneglyph. So I don't think that's going to happen, because it'll make all the readers be like, oh, what's the hell happening now? Because it's like, he's just like, oh, we need one more, we don't know where it is, I guess we'll just sail around, and they just happen to go to Elbaf.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be like they have a reason to go to Elbaf, if we go at all.
Maybe one of the
Um,
poneglyphs points to
yeah.
the fact that the giants are those that transported the poneglyphs, and that they've, like, the Kozuki have left something to the giants, but it's not stated
Yeah.
what it is. It's just hinted at it in the poneglyphs.
Mhm.
So then Robin goes,
That's
"Oh,
a possibility.
can we go here? It's nearby."
It could even, like you were saying, be something quite simple, like Big Mom goes to Elbaf for whatever reason, to recover, or because she's like, oh fuck this, I'm just gonna do one last big attempt, and I'm just gonna go try to beat all the giants. I don't know, like, um, then Luffy goes, oh, I can't let her do that, and then chases. Even then, like, I mean, I've told you already in the past, like, I don't see, if Luffy beats Kaido, I don't see Luffy versus Big Mom being very
Challenging.
significant.
So to
Yeah.
me, if it goes down that route, it's like Big Mum might have a character redemption, right?
Mhm.
And then Luffy sort of gets to say, is like, yeah, like next time him and Katakuri have an altercation, it's like, yeah, we got to beat Big Mum, but now she's turned good, so you're welcome.
Yeah.
So, it's like there's a
So
lot of
here's
your back. Or, and this is a big or,
so
and I don't think a lot of people have really thought about this, and I don't think I've even gotten to tell you about this, and I really get excited thinking about this, right? Or, Big Mum's age catches up with her because she's been sacrificing years for combat, and she drops out of her prime. And after a little bit of time being knocked out, she decrepits herself like crazy.
okay.
Like, she just ages up to the point where she just turns to shit.
She's just like like a fully blown old lady.
Yeah, because I'm talking like what happened to Haughty Jones. You know what I mean?
Okay, the only thing that I would say against that is that it does seem like with Katakuri and Luffy, it's been set up that like Luffy needs to stop Big Mom.
See, to
Um,
to me with that, it's
he
like
goes
next time
back
Big
as like
Mum,
an old lady and then just starts ruling Whole Cake again.
if no
Doesn't.
no no no. So imagine if it's like, no matter where, right? Say Luffy has another altercation with Big Mom.
Hmm?
She ain't touching him unless she's got years of her life on the line for boosts, right?
Right.
At the end of that fight, she's going to be too old to run her pirate crew. She'll retire.
Right.
You know what
So
I mean?
if Big Mom fights Luffy again, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's possible that like they go to Elbaf and then Big Mom like um it's all like soul, like basically spends all of her life trying to power up to such an extent that she can beat Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
Then it ends up being like quite a quick fight because of it's hard because she's powered up so much that it is actually really hard for Luffy. But he kind of like perseveres, and then
And like,
Big Mom basically ties herself out into death.
yeah, it's like
In the
sacrificing all of her like, she's doing the turbo boost. Like, hey, I'm gonna win the race. I'm
yeah,
gonna win the race. I'm gonna win the race. Ends up running out of
yeah.
fuel before the finish line.
And just as like a little added bonus, it's like normally what she would do is she would scare everybody around her and absorb their souls to
Mm.
power up. Because she's on Elbaf, all the giants are so proud and brave that none of them actually lose their souls.
And all the
And
straw
then
hats
she's
have
like,
already been like, you're just a mere yonker, you fat old
yeah,
hag.
they have like so much faith in Luffy now.
Mm.
And so then she can't take anyone's souls, and then she has to use her own soul to power up because of that, and that's why she dies.
And
That'd be interesting.
that would be fitting in a lot of ways, wouldn't it? Because
Yeah. Then I
ironically,
still think there would have to be a reason for her to go to Elbaf. I mean, like like I don't know, I don't disagree. Like it is definitely possible that she just like goes there to recover and it's close by. I think it's got to be a reason. I think she has
maybe
to like know something.
maybe even. Ooh. See, it's hard, right? Because there were still things that set up that never paid off. I mean, like, look at Caribou. He had information on like ancient weapons and stuff like that, and nothing came of that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it would have been perfect if like Kaido, like Big Mom finds out about where one of the ancient weapons is because of Karibo in this arc.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when she saw stuff going south or when she's been beaten, she gets up and she's like, do you know what? I'll just go get that then instead. I'll go for the, it's not a loss if I get something.
Yeah. That's the thing. It could be like I was basically defeated on my own turf, even though she wasn't like defeated, but you know, was disgraced on my own turf, and then I went and joined another Yonko and was then defeated again. Can't just go back to Whole Cake right now.
So-
I need a win before I go back because I'm like disgraced.
So,
And then it could be that she just kind of gets angry and just does like a last ditch. You know what? I'm just gonna like throw my life at this, and if I get it, then that's good. Otherwise, I can't return in shame.
Tom Cass just brought up an excellent point. If Big Mom's hunger pangs and memory loss is not a setup for Chopper to cure her, she's just a collection of plot conveniences. Do you know what would be really interesting? They make it to Elbaf, because whenever Big Mom's had her hunger pains, she's already gone into that mode before Chopper's seen. Chopper hasn't actually seen like a cause and effect. Right? So Chopper has no reason to believe it's an illness and not just a big crazy woman.
Yeah.
Right? It would be really interesting narratively, if like we were saying, right? That somehow the conflict gets to Elbaf because the giants need resolution with her, and she needs resolution with her her abilities, like her memories, right? It'd be interesting if during the course of this cover spread from Whole Cake Island, Pudding awakens her third eye, so that when the dust settles, Big Mum might get some information and starts heading to Elbaf, right? Maybe she even knows that there's a poneglyph at Elbaf from years ago, but she just hasn't had the strength to take it. She's just wanted to ally with them to get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That could already be a plot point set up for her to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She comes, she fights Luffy. At this point in time, we're like, oh, Luffy should shit on her, but she uses years and years of her life to power up to try and beat Luffy. Right? Resulting in her activating one of her hunger pangs because she's just burning so much life force. Meaning that when Luffy beats her and she turns old, Chopper, along with Big Mum's prior friend, who is a giant and now a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Work on Big Mum to cure her of her hunger pains, but at that point in time, she's an old lady anyway, and she can't really do much else other than just see the changes of the world. Leading Katakuri to take over her crew for her. And
I don't know.
And during that process, maybe Pudding gives her memories back as well. That the fact that she's the reason the giants hate her, and it causes her to mellow the F out.
Yeah, it's all possible. I don't know.
It's too much speculation.
Find it really hard to see Big Mom as redeemable. Even though it is kind of like you know, it's just like a mental health kind of thing. It's pretty hard to see someone like slaughter an entire country of people just for like cake ingredients, just holding a party, and then be like, oh yeah, but you know, she just had a hard upbringing. It's like, sure.
Ironically enough, Big Mum turned into a celestial dragon, didn't she? Give me your tribute or die.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, literally.
I mean, looking at this chapter, we know that Kaido is fundamentally opposed to that mindset, even if he's... Because it's interesting, right? Do you know what's really interesting? Kaido's opposed to that mindset, even though he likes fighting and he's good at war. He's opposed to the mindset of political bargaining chips and just, you know, becoming a warrior for the sake of being a warrior, right? Like, you want me to be a government dog, you know, he's against that. Only for him to not be a pirate, set out on his own, end up at Pirate Island full of lead. Obviously, he gets recruited by Rocks and that. But then we get the interesting thing where it shifts and we get Orochi's old grandma or aunt 10 years have passed since the incident of God Valley, and you're now known as the embodiment of brutality. So at some point in time, there was a tone shift in Kaido's life that isn't explained. You know what I mean?
Remember that? What tone shift?
So to me, it's like there's a difference between growing up in a war-torn country and fighting because you have to, right? To then shifting and wanting to just inflict pain on people for no reason.
Yeah. The thing is that like I feel like him growing up in that war-torn country, and he didn't really have like stake. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like the knight of the king. He was just like a dude. I feel like even when he was a kid, people were using him as like essentially a political bargaining chip.
Yep.
Just that they weren't like selling him. They were just like
Using him.
I'm going to use him to fight on my side. Well, I'm going to manipulate him so that he fights on my side.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they were just like, all right, well, we just don't want him at all anymore. Let's just sell him to the world government or to the Navy or whatever. And then, yeah. And then, by the way, love how we got the explanation for why he's been captured so many times.
Yeah. Ironically enough, I love that. Even though it's still up in the air whether or not one of those losses is actually like the only loss he may have received in his entire life is from Garp or Roger.
Yeah.
Which is funny. You know, like it's actually dead ass funny. If he,
which also makes it pretty good that with Odin, right? Because like Odin, like it makes sense why he has that like PTSD kind of thing around Odin, because Odin's like the only person that he's like that has really been that strong.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is that back when Roger and Roger and Garp, when he dealt with them, he was like a lot younger, and he was probably not the strongest on the crew. It was probably like Whitebeard was probably stronger than him, and Big Mom might have been just because she's older and had the fruit, and we don't know if he had his like at what point he got his fruit. Mm-hmm. If it was like at the end of Rocks or the start.
No, for Kaido, it was God Valley. We got that confirmed. Remember?
At God Valley.
Yes.
Right. So it was like right before they went down.
Right. So at this point in time, there's minimal people that have beaten Kaido. So Kaido really is Bullet, right? You know how Bullet like only ever got beat by Roger?
Yeah.
It's essentially the same thing, but Kaido is Bullet and his Roger is Rocks, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm saying is that like even though Kaido got beaten at God Valley, he had only then just gotten his fruit.
Well,
and
see, this is the interesting thing.
He got beat at God Valley.
They got beat. It was a complete floor wipe, but it's like, did he get beat and then he ate his fruit to, you know, survive God Valley? Or did they go to God Valley to get the fruit? Dragon God Valley?
Right.
You know what I mean? It might have been like we're here to get this fruit. They get there. We're like, oh, we're on the verge of losing. Kaido, eat it.
Yeah. Or I mean, Big Mom said that like she kind of gave it to him. So maybe like she had it in her possession. She was trusted with it. And then they got attacked. And then like Rocks was like about to die. And they were like, fuck, I'm just going to give it to you because you're the only one that doesn't have a fruit. And let's all run.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of like, because like, for years, people were like, oh, Whitebeard turned on them, or, you know, they, you know, even here, they're like, oh, they must have lost because of infighting. But it's like, from what we see, it's like, Whitebeard would just go off and 1v1 someone, right? Rock's probably the same. Kaido and Big Mom at this point in time are pretty chill, but it seems like, you know, like, they're confident with their abilities, but it's like, they're also limited by being weaker back in the day. In a sense?
Yeah, it probably wasn't infighting. I think it was probably more just like a lack of cohesion. Where, like you're saying, like they were just kind of 1v1s. They were just like, I'm going to go fight that guy. You stop everyone else from fighting me. Because I want to fight that guy.
So...
yeah, so basically what I'm getting at is like, so he wasn't nearly as strong at God Valley. He was like significantly weaker because he was a lot younger. And he didn't have his fruit or just had it or whatever.
This would have been a great time for him to have been unlocking his advanced Conqueror's armament and observation when he was fruitless.
Yeah. And what I'm thinking is that, like, he wasn't really at the level
where he could like accurately judge how strong people like Roger and Garp were because he was not that level yet.
Mm.
And so, but he was like, yeah, fair enough. You're a lot more experienced than me. You're a lot more of a, you're a lot
I'm
more of a better part. You're
15.
on my
You're
captain's level,
30.
not mine. Yeah. And then, so then they got beat and he ran away. But it probably didn't feel as much like a defeat in
Yeah.
a sense, because it was like, well, fair enough. You're just like at a higher tier, and I'm not there yet. But then once he got to that higher tier, the only one who ever actually pushed him was Odin.
Yeah.
That's why I think it makes a lot of sense that he has all these like flashbacks around Odin, because Odin was like really the only person that Kaido probably thinks ever gave him close to an L.
Yep.
Whereas, because it's like you can kind of just like hand wave
And
like Roger
see-
and that, because it's like, well, of course you're not going to beat him at 15.
Do you know what part of the problem is as well?
Mm.
Like, and this is interesting, but it's like the more content we get, the more it's cemented. None of the top tiers have fought anyone of significant note for years. For like at least the last 20 years, they haven't done shit against anyone of note. And for some of these people, even longer, right? Like, Kaido and Big Mom literally say at the beginning in like chapter 1000, it's like, how many hundreds of rookies, no different to these guys, have we just mushed into the ground, right?
Yeah.
But we have no Kaido going out there challenging Mihawk or the admirals and this and that, right? They know they're all strong, right? But it's like they've been in a perfect stalemate, all these top tiers for years, where they never really go anywhere or deal with each other at all, and it's always too much effort to actually like have a conclusion, if that makes sense, right? Like, thinking about it like this, it's like Rock split. Whitebeard filled that gap quicker than anyone, right?
Yeah.
About the same time, Big Mom plants herself in where she made her House of Lambs and started growing Whole Cake Island out from there, right? And we know for years she didn't really move. She just sort of supplanted herself there and grew her territory out with allies and stuff like that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Kaido would do raids, but it was far and few between. Right? And those sorts of raids could be as simple as like Kaido went and collected the numbers and went out after some rookies and stuff like that, and it was just challenging rookies, no one necessarily of note, right? Then you've got Shanks. 6 years ago, Shanks did something to become a Yonko. We don't know what it is, right? So arguably, where everyone else 20 years plus ago set themselves up and was stagnant, the only person that really moved in that time was Shanks, and all he did was just come up to the same level. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, like the Marines and that, they've caught hundreds of strong people. I mean, they caught most of the Blackbeard pirates. They're catching heaps of rookies left, right, and center. They never went near any of the territories of any of these top tiers because it was a matter of like, it sort of balances out. They do our job over there. We don't need to collect them, even though we don't like them. They just sort of they do their thing. We do our thing in a bigger area, right? Then what? In that time, within that last 20 years, the one decisive change was as the 3 Yonko, soon to be 4 Yonko, developed more and stronger. They got to their peak and grew their crew. The world government did one really tricky thing, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I thought of a really good way to word it, right? The world government implements the warlord system, right? But what do you think the warlord system, like, just off your head, what's a warlord system to you?
Like the existence of the 7 warlords.
Yeah.
It's the system.
It's just a system? They're like, it's just 7 pirates to help?
Yeah, it's the idea. Yeah.
Because...
Okay, question. After they lost some of them, did they ever... Never gone over 7.
Nope.
Right? But they've left it quite a long time without having 7.
No. They've always tried to fill 2-7.
Always tried to fill 7, okay.
Yeah. And it's very specific. And this is what I think is really interesting, because if you actually look at the 7 warlords, when and why, arguably, they were recruited, it seems like the Marines, not the Marines, the world government, literally went, we don't want to have rocks on our hands again, so let's make our own rocks. And so the warlord system was them trying to like bring the rookies that would eventually develop into their own versions of rocks, like the people that they saw with that same potential to join their crew, right? Because we followed the story of Luffy. Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates they're unfair with development compared to the rest of the crews and people in the world, right? But if you look at the warlords, right? Use the OG warlords, best example, right? You've got Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman, to say fill the role of like Whitebeard, the world's strongest man from Rocks, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got 2 members in Boa and Dofi that have all 3 types of Haki, right? At Boa and Dofi, at that 30 years old sort of age bracket, right? 30 to 40. I'm pretty sure, I'll look that up actually. I'm pretty sure Dofi's, do you remember how old Dofi is? I know Boa's 28. Alright, so Dofi's sort of just hit 40, right? So, you, and again, they didn't do it well, but the development of normal people, right? If you look at One Piece characters, it's like Law and Kid. They're really strong, right? They're in their mid-20s, around the same age as Boa. They have awakened their fruit, but they have no forms of advanced Haki, do they?
Yeah, true.
Go another decade down the line, right? You've got Dofi, who's got all 3 types of Haki, right? And an awakened fruit, right? Put 10 more years on that, you got Katakuri. All 3 types of Haki, an awakened fruit, and advanced Haki in at least one aspect. And you just keep doing that. Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard, right? 60 and above. All 3 types of Haki advanced, and you could argue an awakened fruit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they didn't do it as well because they're not the same. They're not the same. You can't just be like, oh, we'll copy that and it'll be just as good. But it's like, to me, the warlord system is like the world government sort of being like, let's take that idea of what happened at Rocks and make sure they're on our side next time. And it starts with getting the world's strongest swordsman. It starts with getting the pirate empress to mirror Big Mom. You know what I mean? Comes from the Kuja, the land of Haki. You know, that sounds really good, right? Dofi forced his way in there as a former celestial dragon, but you got to think, all 3 types of Haki, good fruit, and a big kingdom. Sounds impressive. You know what I mean? Then, it's like, you've essentially filled the role of the main characters on the Rocks Pirates. Now you've got to fill, like, Wang Ji, Captain John, and, Shiki. Those kind of people, right?
Yeah.
So, you get Kuma, a king that's a tyrant. Sweet. Sick abilities. Love it. Tick it off, right? You get Moria, a former rival to even Kaido. You know what I mean? Who gets stronger the more the death that's around him. It's like, that's a great person. We already know that they've competed in the past and that he can only ever get better, even though essentially Moria just turned the opposite. Like, which is the reason they fire him at Marineford. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Marineford ends and they're like, the only warlord not worth keeping is you because you're too weak, because you didn't get better. What the fuck? You know what I mean? So it's like, it really was, I was thinking about this and I was like, the warlord system is just the world government being like, let's make Rocks, right? And if they don't live up to hype, we'll fire them and replace them with someone else that will, a rookie that's on that up and coming level. What do? They pick out Law, an excellent pick. You know what I mean? They've got Edward Weevil, Whitebeard's son. And, like, every time we've heard about him, it's like, we don't know if he's actually Whitebeard's son or not, but he's got the strength of Whitebeard's son, so yeah, let's keep him. You know what I mean? Like, it really... I thought that was just really funny. You know what I mean? They were trying to get a monopoly on the next generation of Yonko.
Yeah.
And it kind of works in a way. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is really good, right? Because, like, essentially all you need is, like... I guess the main thing is, if you have a pirate who's that
powerful, they can make tons of money or whatever the hell their goal is by just beating other pirates.
And it's better
that
on
kind
your
of thing.
side than the other.
I think, yeah. So I think like, Boa is that way because she has her own like village, her own place. So she doesn't need like income, because like essentially like the thing that pirates would do is they would raid like small islands that have like weak fences, right? And they would take treasures. That's like the general goal of the pirates, I would assume. It's really hard because it's like we haven't seen many cases of that.
Ooh.
The ones that we have been like really low level, like thug kind of crews, but we haven't seen people that are like on the level of like, like what the hell do the Whitebeard division command, or not division commanders, allied pirate crews do? What do they do?
They're just
They sail
pirates.
around.
They're no different to me than like the Supernova or like Cavendish and that, when they're just not
That's what I
allied.
mean.
Like, they
That's
just
what I mean.
go
They're
do
like,
their thing.
what do they do?
They could just go do their thing. But even that, right?
The thing of a pirate is to like attack villages, steal goods, attack like shipping vessels, steal their shipping supplies, and then drink and party and have sex with
But
prostitutes. That's what pirates do.
but do you know what the flip
So,
of
like,
it is?
the thing is like everyone on like all of like Whitebeard's people and all of like Luffy's people have just seemed very honorable, I guess.
Yeah. No, I get that. But like, do you know what the kind of the flip of it is?
Mm.
And like all the Yonkos seem like this now, especially now that we know that Shanks has a large crew. It's not just the 10 core people, right? You look at all of it. All the Yonko have got territory, right? They all gain money from their territory. But do you know what's been a common thing that's funny that we've found across the board for the Yonko?
What?
They don't do the typical pirate thing where they just go out and pillage, even though they talk about doing it. They set a business up to make passive money in some capacity, right? So, Big Mum, she has her food and she taxes her people and they pay tributes and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Kaido sells high quality weapons and sea stone to the world government and the world.
Yep.
Right? Shanks, as a new up-and-comer, we don't necessarily know what his business is, but we've been told multiple times that he rookie crushes because he's not a fan of, like, young pirates. Right?
Which, by the way, very strange that he would give Luffy the hat and be like, become a great pirate for me, and then go out and rookie crush.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, Shanks is evil, thanks.
Do you remember what Whitebeard does?
Has a family. No, he has a couple of like towns. I'd imagine he would just go to the towns for resources.
Whitebeard's crew's main source of income, and this you'll find this funny, right? Because he's like Shanks, man. He's a snitch, right? But Whitebeard and his crew, and this is actually how we find out. You know the allied captains of his that were part of his crew?
Yeah.
They just went off, started their own crews. Fair enough. You know the other allied captains that weren't part of his crew?
Yeah.
Most of them are people that fall into this category to an extent, of people that Whitebeard and his crew and division commanders beat. And most of the time, what they do is they actually contact underground brokers, so Joker, right?
Mm-hmm.
To tee up selling the bounties of the people to people to go collect the bounties from the Marines. Whitebeard and his crew are essentially the world's largest bounty hunter operation.
Right, but they just don't interact with the world government because I guess they wouldn't be allowed to.
Yeah. And that was their main source of income.
Yeah.
That and stripping the ships of pirates that they've beaten to sell parts and keep supplies. None of these people, like, they're bad, but like none of these people are like, oh, they're super piratey, yahardy, you know what I mean?
That's the thing, is that like I understand how the Yonko can get away with it because the Yonko have territory. They have literal islands under their control. So if they wanted to, they could just go to the island and be like, hey, I am like literally your owner. You need to give me like food and shit. And they'll be like, yeah, awesome. And they will do it like happily, as long as you're not like ruining their economy. You know what I mean? Like they would do it pretty happily. But I more mean like yeah, like the random ally captains or like the random supernova that aren't allied with anyone and is
So
just sailing around.
they
Like
they and we,
yeah.
we
And
remember
Luffy's captains. I know a lot of them are like part of armies or like shit like that, but like some of them aren't. Like what the
no, but
how does Cavendish?
that's the thing. Remember, we got this from the beginning. You either join a Yonko crew or you get crushed by a Yonko crew. We've been told that time and time again. And everyone else
Yeah.
that's not part of the Yonko crew is either just lucky waiting to be crushed by a Yonko crew, or will soon be like conglomerated into one. We see this with the AO pirate, not the AO pirates. The do you remember the dual swordsman with the monkey on Whitebeard's crew, the allied captain?
Yeah.
He used to work for Kaido.
Okay.
In the Whitebeard in the Ace novel, I'm pretty sure it was him and someone else were backed by Kaido to assassinate Whitebeard, right? Sent into Whitebeard's territory, only to be beaten by Whitebeard and join his crew. Weird, interesting politics. You know what I mean? But like, that's the thing where it's like these.
It would be really cool if they like fleshed out politics of the new world.
Yeah.
And like they also did it for the Grand Line, you know what I mean? Because it did feel like when we entered the Grand Line, it's like this is a whole new world now. This is a different ball game. But it was always just focused on like people are strong and they will kill you.
Yeah.
Like whereas it wasn't as much like you have to now do this to or actually to be fair, it was pretty big on navigating as well. It was a big thing towards navigating
And
when we went to
I feel like those
places.
two things are the only things that affected us because we never stayed anywhere long enough to have an economic impact.
Yeah, and the crew always found shit tons
And
of gold in random places.
mind you, the one time we do take down people that are worth, like that actually have their hands dipped into these networks, it causes massive ripples. Like when we beat Doflamingo, remember all the countries that couldn't get armed for their wars? Like they were going to Doflamingo to buy weapons from Kaido. Dofi goes down, they lose their middleman. All of a sudden, so many wars are immediately lost because they don't have arms.
Yeah.
Like, it's present, but it's like, it's not, it's present and it's subtle, but it's not there to be like, oh my god, please, can we see more of this? Because it's cool. I want to see more of it. Like the Vinsmoke. The Vinsmoke's whole thing is they're a mercenary army to win a war. They're essentially...
Yeah, they just go around, yeah.
They're essentially like the Senju and the Uchiha. Where it's like, we're going to hire them to win. That's it.
In this book that I'm reading, there's this army belongs to this really strong city, and they basically just act as a mercenary army because no one ever attacks the city because it's really well defended, and they just go around fighting other people's wars and getting paid for it. And in the world, it's like you like level up, so they just fight heaps of wars, level up heaps, become even stronger, and just travel around doing that. And then if anyone ever attacks their city, they're always close enough that by the time the enemy knocks down the walls, they'll arrive. So they don't even need to like stay in the city. They just going around killing everybody.
It's pretty crazy. I'm gonna.
But yeah, all of that stuff is really just because One Piece is such like a huge world that it would be cool to hear about. I guess like political and economic things. I guess that's not most people's. It's not really like a shonen.
But it's
You
still
know what I
good
mean?
to see.
In terms of the category of shonen, because shonen is supposed to be like teenage boy kind of thing. And it's like, you remember the first time that you ever watched the first Star Wars movie versus like the last time you watched it? You
Yep.
understand the politics around it so much more.
Me,
When you watch it at first, it's like, oh, it's cool lightsabers, and they talk a lot.
my wife and I were talking about this the other day. Where we were talking about like what would, if you had like your own sort of like One Piece cinematic universe or like novel universe and that, what would be some of the stories you'd want told, right? And like one of the things that we came to the conclusion of was like, how cool would it be to see a civilian in some generic ass town, and their town is essentially failed to be saved or has a tyrannical marine in charge, right? Leading them to essentially have one of the Yonko come and wipe out the Marines. And it's like, the news displays it as like this town has been taken over by Yonko. How sad, how depressing is it? But really, for the civilians, it's like we've been liberated from our oppressive government overlord. And it's like, like it's about them then actively going, I want to join your crew. You know what I mean? So they go join the Yonko crew, and then that's just like one of the nameless background fodder in Marineford or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It would be really cool to have like, kind of like how the Ace novel happened, where we just have entire things like that.
Just, I feel like a series of one-shots of like One Piece civilians, One Piece, like just different views of some of the people we see, right? Because, I mean, it's crazy, but like this chapter...
Just like a day of Garp's life, training Kobe and that.
Also, I just gotta say, imagine the parallel universe to One Piece, right? Where the Marines actively just had 2 changes happen in history. Big Mom and Kaido got recruited properly and didn't bail. Because both were offered to the Marines.
Yeah.
Imagine that universe.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, there wouldn't be 3 admirals, there'd be 5 at least.
Well, you got to say though, Fuji and Green Bull were essentially like Kaido, right? They just constantly try to recruit like really strong people.
Yeah.
Seemingly like Fuji and Green Bull were just like chilling out as like legends wherever the hell island they were on. And then the world government was like, hey, yep, you got to join us now.
And this sort of gets into what I was talking to you off stream the other day, where it's like the world government, there's enough set up that it's like they could pull any number of people at any level in the world out of a hat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
a big question actually that I don't think anyone's really considered is like, why did Fuji and Green Bull, or particularly Fuji because we know more about him, he's kind of old.
Yep.
He's like middle-aged to later aged. Why did he just like suddenly join the Navy now, become an admiral? You know what I mean? Like, what's the deal with this Marine draft? Like, why did they force him to?
Nope.
They have something over his head? Because if he wanted to join the Navy and go around and like beat up bad pirates and stuff,
he would have already.
Why the hell has he waited his entire life to do that? Yeah.
So I feel like the death of Whitebeard was a huge catalyst and changing point. Right? Where for a lot of like for the military draft, thinking about it from the perspective of like the propaganda to the world, it's like the current biggest threat to the world government handled with ease. The future problem of Ace handled with ease. You know what I mean? And it's like they're spewing that propaganda to the world. For Fuji specifically, I think at that point in time, it's like, well, if our 2 biggest obstacles are taken care of, right? I will put my hat in the ring and I'll fight to get rid of the last injustice of the warlords. Right? But like, the thing is, and this is hard, right? It's like...
Actually, that's the thing. So, you know how I was saying, like, what are their motivations? Maybe they do have their own unique motivations. Maybe Fuji's is that something happened where a warlord killed a bunch of people that he loved, and then he went, I'm gonna fucking stop the warlords. And then, like, maybe, like, he never really bothered because he never had an opportunity to, like, get that high up. And then suddenly the military draft happened. And Akinu is just like, hey, you're insanely strong. I'm going to make you an admiral. He's like, that's as high as I could have hoped for. Sure, I'll become an admiral and then try to get the warlords broken up.
Yeah, definitely. And it was hinted in an SBS that Green Bull's got a similar mindset.
Right.
Because they're based on animals from the Momotaro story that are aligned with the Oni.
Yep.
Right? And someone asked that in SBS, and I was like, shh, I can't answer this, bye.
Right.
So it's like Green Bull most likely is going against the grain of what the current world government wants in some aspect.
Yeah.
Right? Ged just asked, who do you think the silhouette is? The one with the hat? Is it also a straw hat? I think that's just poorly panelled, but it's Big Mum. In that little scene there, when we're on the ship with Kaido, we have Whitebeard talking to him, drinking. We cut to the Rocks Pirates ship from behind, and then I think that's Big Mum opening the door to to tell Kaido that we're going to God Valley, while Whitebeard's off to the left there sitting down, and Kaido's obviously young and fit, because we also see Big Mum the next couple of panels down with her sort of cowboy hat that would later become Napoleon.
Yeah, I definitely think that's Big Mom as well.
Yeah. Originally, I was like, oh, that might be Whitebeard, and that's just his mustache. But I can see Whitebeard's shoulder there, still seated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, yeah, definitely.
Which, hang on a second, while I'm here, just looking at oh, I just had a freak out moment then. I had to zoom in on the Rocks Pirates ship, because for a second, just behind the white sail, I thought I saw the egg from Roger's ship. But I'm pretty sure that's just the colouring of the mask not being super detailed.
By the way, who's this old lady?
That's Orochi's aunt or grandmother.
Huh.
She's named from the Orochi flashback. That's the one that pretends to be Momo, that Kaido kills because of Odin and that. Which I tell you what, it's interesting
because she like right here, she is literally saying, "Hey, I have a proposition for you about weapons." Like she's literally the one that like told them to.
Well, she's also the one that told Orochi to start making weapons to get a good backing.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I don't know if you remember, but she used to have Bon Clay's fruit. We see her turn into Shiki at one point. So she could have been a former member of Rocks herself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So we still don't know who is Yamato's mum.
No, not at all. Which, again, feels like it doesn't need to be part of the flashback, but it feels like it's still something important that's missing.
It's just annoying because we never find out who people's friggin' mums are.
Yeah,
The best we got is Rouge. We don't even have that much about her. It's fair. I mean, she's dead. We did have a flashback. That's about as much as you can hope for. But we don't know Luffy's mum.
I also think that's an egg. What? Yeah, so it could be an egg or it could be the shading. It's hard to tell because it's sort of splotchy, but there's also like, you know,
what egg are we talking about?
If you go to the page where Kaido's bounty's shown, the 70 mil.
Oh yeah.
At the bottom of that page, the middle panel, where you see the ship.
Okay, where's the egg?
So it looks like in front of the white flag, there could be an egg, or it could just be the colouring of the black flag in front. But it's just like not shown super well, because you know how they've got white next to hard lines, so you can tell that they're not the same line.
In front of the white flag, there could be an egg?
You know the Roger ship egg?
Egg are we talking about? In front of the white flag is in...
So, okay. See the white flag.
I'm seeing the white flag.
See the lamp to the right on it?
Yeah.
Alright. Around the base of that lamp, see how there's black shading that looks like it could be the flag behind the white flag?
Okay.
So you see that?
Yeah.
It looks very similar to the egg that's on Roger's ship in the exact same place, but I think that's just the black shading of the flag being shown through the gaps.
Give it a cheeky zoom in. Not seeing anything egg-shaped. I'm seeing this lamp. I'm seeing the black bit that attaches it.
So if you zoom in, it's like... Oh, here, hang on. Roger Pirate's egg. You know the Roger Pirate egg, right?
Yeah.
It looks similar, and it sits in around the same spot on the ship. And the thing is, it's a white egg with black spots on it. You know what I mean? So those black
Yeah, yeah.
splodges could be it. But I think that's a reach, in all honesty. I think that's a big reach.
Red spots from what I'm seeing.
That's in the
Yeah.
coloured version, but in the manga it's black, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is fair. It's fine. Doesn't need to be super impressive. Doesn't need to be super detailed with that, does it?
So I'm seeing this theory. The egg on Roger's ship is Yamato's egg. I don't know what that theory is about, but
Yamato is a cabbage patch. There we go.
That's how Onis are born.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we see Kaido's hometown and he's the only Oni.
Yeah.
Still no explanation on where, why, or what.
Yeah.
So I'm infuriated by that, but I find that funny. Which is interesting because so we cut to when Kaido's 10, then we cut 5 years later when he's 15, which is 46 years ago, right? Which is when he gets kicked out of his country. Then between that, 2 years later, he's made it to Pirate Island full of lead. So, you know, he spent 2 years getting captured and breaking out to get food and that. Before he makes it, he becomes a mercenary, gets offered to be a pirate, joins the Rocks Pirates. Then 40 years ago, 40 years ago, they disband, right? We know since King's here, at this point in time, that means King... So, 40 years ago, the Rocks Pirates disband. Most likely, Kaido is captured from Rock God Valley. No. Hang on. That can't be it. Because if we look here, we've got the Rocks Pirates have fallen. They're back at Pirate Island full of lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is Big Mum meant to be on Pirate Island full of lead there with her dialogue, or is that meant to be at God Valley? Because it's hard to follow a bit, right? But it's like, they're talking about God Valley in the past tense. Then we cut to Big Mum going like, where's Kaido? So, God Valley, Kaido gets his fruit. Big Mum's like, Kaido, where are you? Don't play around. Kaido's vanished. Right? We know...
What is this?
So, the page under Whitebeard.
The rocks have fallen.
Yep. So we've got the Rocks have fallen, right?
Yeah.
They're back at Pirate Island full of lead saying that. So the Rocks have been defeated past tense. Right?
Yeah.
Big Mum is there. So we know Kaido gets the Fish Fruit model as you're a dragon at God Valley. The Big Mum panel there, I'm assuming, isn't at God Valley, since they're talking about God Valley past tense. So maybe they escape God Valley, make it back to Pirate Island full of lead. Somewhere after this moment, Kaido is captured and taken to Punk Hazard, where he meets King for the first time and leaves.
Yep.
5 years later, he starts building his fortress and that in Wano and gets contacted with gets in contact with Orochi and that. So we see that he's started to build in Wano, right? Even though it sort of seems like this old lady's talking about like they haven't started it yet, but I think she's just giving the narrative.
I don't think this is in Wano panel. He's sitting on this throne.
Yeah, but we see him in that same area. We see him in that same area, like giving the speech, and it's inside the Onigashima capital. And timeline wise,
giving that speech, I think it is. So I think like when he's sitting in that throne, it's like whatever his headquarters was before that. And this old lady is like literally said, "Weapons shape the world we live in." With that in mind, I have a proposition for you.
but this would be
He's attacking.
But this would be 34 years ago here, which 34 years ago he already started living in Wano and building his castle, didn't he? In Onigashima.
But it was 20 years ago that he attacked.
20 years ago he kills Odin. Odin lived in Wano for 5 years with Kaido, and Kaido lived in Wano for 5 to 10 years before Odin. Because Odin left 40 years ago with Whitebeard.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So then I think that still adds up. Like, if this throne what he's sitting on is not on Wano, this is like just a little bit after he forms a pirate crew, he gets king and queen, gets captured and released, and breaks out. It's king and queen, and then this lady says, "Weapons shape the world we live in. I have a proposal for you." Then he goes to war goes and
Takes over Wano.
yeah. The thing that I don't get is that he's saying, "Let's show those peace-loving nobles." If he's attacking Wano,
Nah.
where on Wano do they have peace-loving
No,
nobles?
no. That's him. So she's talking about weapons shape the world, right? Kaido's flashing back to his childhood of the nobles, sending you out to die for no reason, right?
Right.
So he's like, I'm going to be the person that fuels war around the world, which he did by giving Dofi weapons, and Dofi was in the pots of the world, right? Essentially, Kaido is the second biggest revolutionary after Dragon, with the amount of wars that he was backing. You know what I mean? So it's like, Kaido's saying here, right, by selling weapons to people that want to revolt, will show those peace-loving nobles the hellish reality of war. You know what I mean?
Okay. So he's not saying it that time?
So his speech is like, we're a weapons manufacturer. Let's show all those peace-loving nobles the hellish realities of war by selling our weapons. If that makes sense.
I don't know. I think he's just generally saying, like, I just want war. Like, I just want fighting.
Also, he's an anarchist, where everyone is equal and anarchy reigns free.
Yeah. That's the thing is, like, I don't necessarily know if he specifically wants to, like, cause other people to fight. I think he wants to fight.
And you know what? You are right. Those two moments are very separated, because Kaido goes from having a little mustache to the full Fu Manchu.
Right.
So that must be before he set up shop in Wano. Then it skips to him in Wano with weapons, being like, "Yo, let's go start a war." Woo!
Yeah, right.
Then obviously it cuts to everyone's favorite runner-up CP0 member holding his hat while he bails on everything.
Yeah, tippity-tapping away. And you can see the clash, so he knows who wins this fight.
Dude is running away. He's going to see Kaido get planted through reality. Turn around and be like, "Oh shit!" Alright. But the thing is, right? The thing is here, what happens for this guy here? Because if he sees who wins and goes to those ships that are below, which he knows are there, right? What does he do? He's like, "Yeah, Kaido went down. Let's turn back around and go fight." Because that means his ass is going in to fight after just losing 2 allies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this dude is just like I got out of jail free, sweet. Lands at the ships. If I was him, I'd be lying my ass off like, Kaido killed them all. There's no point going up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, especially if those world government ships don't have anyone of significance and you're the strongest dude there, I'd be looking around like, no. This ain't my job.
In fairness, though, the level that he's at, he can probably tell all those ships to do whatever the fuck he wants, and they cannot question him or they die.
Yeah, but like, mind you, they're sent there to invade Wano if Kaido's gone down.
True.
Which, like, again, talks about that Chekhov's gun that I was talking about before, where it's like, if this is really Kaido out, right? Unless Kaido gets knocked out and he falls through Onigashima, through Wano, and lands in the port down below, and the world government ships see it as they're pulling up, and they're like, we don't have enough forces to win, let's just take Kaido and leave, and our reward will be having taken out a Yonko.
Mhm.
But
In fairness, I don't think anyone can stop. Um, like can take out Luffy, even if they all attack
Yeah.
Wano. Yeah, there's too many people up. Like Jinbei, Brook, Robin, all up.
Sanji,
Sanji, King can like Law and Kid will like
The-
be able to rest a little bit to be able to like at
the
least kill
only
fodder.
person not up is Zoro and Luffy.
Yeah. If King can get back up and sees that Luffy beat Kaido, he will immediately be on Luffy's team.
Yeah.
Not in
Which,
terms of like I swear loyalty for you, but in terms of like I want to talk to him. You can't kill him till I can talk to him.
which would be interesting if we get a moment like that very soon. Especially since, like, in a weird way, we've got King as a Lunarian, right?
Mhm.
But what the hell is Hitetsu? Because he's got wings. And that as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like maybe he's half Lunarian or something, or he's like King's father or some crazy crap. Who knows? There's so many possibilities. I know a lot of people think he's Odin's dad.
I don't think they'd let him live if he was Lunarian in prison in the level 6. I think they
Yeah.
would just kill him.
Yeah. So it's
They
like,
killed all the other Lunarians.
so it's like, you know, something's got to happen. Otherwise, there's about to be a mass execution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And mind you, anyone that gets captured here and goes to Impel Down, all that means is in the final war, they're going to be the people that are supporting Bon Clay leave Impel Down, considering that was the whole reason Ivankov was there in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like either they all just get executed off cuff, which it's like, oof, good luck for those that cared about them, or it's like they've got to escape and run or join.
Yeah, true.
Because it's like, we're at the awkward late stage, you know, page 1, Ulti, like, Sasaki, all them. It's like, what's going to happen? Is Wano going to arrest them and kill them? Is the world government going to arrest them and kill them? Are they going to get taken to Impel Down and come back later that way?
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to see all of the Beast Pirates, like Topiropo, taken to Impel Down, though. And then when they escape Impel Down, it's the Topiropo versus the awakened Jailer Beasts.
Yeah.
That would be kind of fun as a matchup. It would be funny.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It's like you've got a Chihuahua fighting a goddamn Spinosaurus. You know, like a koala messing with a giant spider.
Yeah.
It'd be goofy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Okay, don't worry.
don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry.
I know we're getting close. We've got to wrap the stream up soon because I know that you've got plans on, so I'm aware of that.
I'm gonna wrap it up. Yeah.
Chat, ask any questions you want now while you got the chance. Also, I like to say how funny it is when people are always like, anyone that can use water would just low diff everyone in One Piece, where we see all the people here stuck in like a tsunami, just like, ugh. It sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is funny. But we've got Jinbei and Kawamatsu here. Two fishmen that can manipulate the water. It's like, help some people out, please.
Yeah.
Which also, I wouldn't be surprised if the next cover series, or if an aspect of something going forward, is Apu recruits this number that's with him as his right-hand man. So, like, you know how, like, Law's got Beppo and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Apu's got a number on his crew.
Be cool.
And that's sort of his, like, you know, his little claim to fame.
Yeah.
Which,
Do you think, like, pretty much all pirates will follow Luffy when he becomes Pirate King and start taking on the World Gov?
I don't know. I think there's a possibility that some don't. Some people are just like, that ain't for me. But I
Well, I guess I'm more
respectfully
interested
won't
in the
oppose it.
Supernova, particularly. Do you think the Supernova will?
Maybe not.
It's hard because it's like, yeah, like that's the thing is like, what's their
What's there left for him
Um,
other than just like this was his story and he's just a menace in the future for no name people, but he won't mess with Luffy.
well, it's like, what's their goal? I guess.
Pirate King, just not a goal that they're ever going to achieve. Like,
They all have that same goal, Pirate King.
do you know what's interesting?
Hmm?
I ain't see Hawkins here. Sorry, guys. Hawkins might actually be dead. If getting cut from beanbags to your forehead wasn't enough, drowning alive in a building on fire might do it to you. So, I don't know. It's interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That said, though, like, Onigashima lands. Wait, like it's right next to the flower capital, right? Is this where it's just left forever now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of cleanup?
Potentially. Unless there's some kind of secret or something. I'm not sure. Do have to head off though.
Yeah, no worries. Let's wrap up the stream. All right, yo, thank you guys and girls for coming by. Much appreciated. Again, sorry for non-consistent streams at the moment. We are trying to work on that, and sorry for all the technical difficulties as well. But that being said, this was an interesting chapter. We're going on break next week, so we might do another stream and talk about a few other things next weekend. Not too sure yet. Depends on what we have in terms of accessibility next weekend. That being said, Daniel, you want to say goodbye?
Hey, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, peace. Oh, last question. All right, well, Daniel, you can dip out if you want. I'll catch you later, my dude, okay?
Yeah, catch you later.
All right, cheers for the stream. All right, last question. Shoot, Ged. Do your thing. Tell you what, Kid Kaido and Teenager Kaido is funny, but it's also funny that Kaido at 15 is where he's got his 70 mil bounty, which is around where Big Mum got her second bounty at 500 mil. So, Big Mum getting those unfair gains, even though if this is Kaido's first bounty, it's bigger than Big Mum's first bounty at 50 mil. But I like seeing those progressions in that, getting to see the Yonko's bounties change over time. I always like that for other characters in that, which is interesting. What, 70 mil? So Zoro's first bounty was in between Big Mom and Kaido's first bounties, which is fun to think about. Man, this punch really rocked Kaido. He broke the horn and everything. Kaido's eyes are widened out. Just spiraling down. Chat, do you think Kaido will get back up? Do you hope? Do you wish? Or at this point in time, do you want the arc to be over? Because I know you were thinking the arc wraps up very soon, Ged. I don't know. I feel like Kaido's introduction was about him getting his ass up out of a big ass hole. I'd be a little disappointed if he doesn't do it again, but it is what it is. The last question is about Kibi Dungo. Ooh, okay. I've never had Kibi Dungo, but shoot your question, my guy. Oh, I forgot to ask Dan. Oh, no, we talked about it, I think. We talked about the Vince Smoke earlier. Didn't talk about it as much as I'd like to, but I'm really looking forward to the cover series following through as well. I think this is probably Pudding freeing them, though, here. He will, but not to fight. Interesting. I could see that. I could see that Luffy's, like, in Kaido's mind, Luffy beat Kaido, so Kaido gets back up and he's like, "You're Joy Boy." Like, look at above my comment. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't say that again. My bad. Do you think Kibi Dungo effect lasts until bathed in salt water, just like Moria? If so, ooh. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say no. But that would be a really interesting way to have this war continue on. Really, really interesting. I'm gonna say. Do you know what? Yes, you are right. It's gonna break the curse. But now that Kaido's removed from the situation, they're gonna be good anyway, and they're gonna get along with Otama no different. I think that might be the way that it goes. The gifters right now is soaked. Yeah, no, I fully get what you mean. I'm gonna say it does work the same way. Like drinking salt water gets rid of the effects, but it'll definitely it won't matter. It'll just mean that they're no longer enslaved to people. I think that's the best way of looking at it, at least. Alright, that being said, I'm going to wrap the stream up there, guys. Alright, thank you for coming by. Like the stream, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. It is appreciated, alright? And, do you know what? I haven't really talked about this, but I've been having a bit of issues. I've got a copyright problem at the moment from my solo leveling videos, which has been part of the reason why I haven't been uploading as much content lately. I've been sort of trying to navigate the manga realm and stuff like that and organize content to upload consistently for series that you guys and girls like. So if there's any series that you would like to see added to the roster for the channel going forward, you know, drop it in the Discord or hit me up on Twitter about it or drop it in the comments. And if it's something that I'm going to be able to do on a regular basis, I'll definitely consider any series that anyone recommends to start. Alright, that being said, this was chapter 1049 of One Piece's live discussion. Thank you guys for coming around. It is really appreciated. Peace. Nothing but love, nothing but respect. Have a damn good day. Goodbye.